Those who plan the future tend to create it. But how do you know your plan is worthwhile at all? If you want to create the future, you need a plan to get there. Here's a simple framework we're working through right now in this video series. There are 5 P's. You want to work through each one of them. Before you create the future with your plan, you need to first set up principles. We talked about our principles in the first video. Now that you have your plan for creating the future, you need to hit that third P. What's the third P? Of course, it's the proof of concept, the POC. This is how in the engineering world we prove that our plan and our principles, our mission is worthwhile. You don't just go around throwing a bunch of money, your time, your life into a plan that might not even be worthwhile, right? This is how you take your idea to concept. The POC is the critical middle step here. Principles, plan, proof of concept. And why do we create the proof of concept? We create the proof of concept to show proof of value, this 4th notch on the P5 pyramid. This moves us closer to the future where we hit P5. We're going to talk about P5 in the final video of this 3-part series. But first, let's talk about what we're doing in this video. So in video 1 of this series, we talked about key ideas, key principles for engineering multi-agent applications like everything is a function. This is a really important concept that we're going to dive into more today by looking at the proof of concept. So let's look through our principles one more time before we jump to the proof of concept. So we talked about using the right tool for the job, right? You don't want to be using something that's not going to be creating the value that you want to see in the first place, right? So it's super important to always use the right tool, in this case, agent for the job. We talked about the idea that everything is a function. We're going to look at this more in detail in just a moment. And then we talked about asking great questions that yield great results for us. Your results are only ever going to be as good as your questions are. So think about what your agents need to do, think about how you need to structure them, and just ask questions around what needs to come next. And then near the middle/end of this video, we're going to look at one more bonus principle that stacks up and will drastically multiply your output over time. It's really the brother of everything is a function. They're tightly correlated and they're, really in sync. So let's talk about the application we're building here, right? On this channel, I like to take real examples. I like to take real problems to show you how you can build your multi-agent applications. We all have different types of problems we're trying to solve. And this was a problem that I knew I could share with you because sharing it would provide a valuable insight into how to build multi-agent applications. I'm obsessed with this stuff. All I do is think about this stuff, and I want to share my journey with you guys so that you can benefit from it. So let's talk about the multi-agent application, right? So we're focused on a multi-agent YouTube automation metadata generator. We're taking this huge manual process. Let's take a look at this, right? We're taking this large manual process of SEO research, brainstorming titles, creating thumbnails, iterating, improving the description, selecting your hashtags, and we're automating this entire process with our multi-agent YouTube automation tool. So in the end, we're going to end up with a tool that does all this stuff in the middle for us. All we have is our rendered video, and then it gets uploaded to YouTube. All this stuff in the middle is going to get automated away. Always up-level the problem you're trying to solve, right? So it's as simple as this. We have a rendered video. We need to generate metadata so we can quickly upload to YouTube. That's it, right? So let's look at how exactly we're replacing this middle step with our multi-agent YouTube automation tool. So let's go ahead and push this back and let's look at this in a little more detail. This is my favorite charting library. This is something called Mermaid. You've seen me use it on the channel before. It's so useful for just quickly diagramming things and looking through functionality. Let's go ahead and full screen this so we can take a deeper look at this. Awesome. Okay, so you can see here we have this brand new flow, right? And it all starts from the same locations, right? We have the rendered YouTube video, and then at the end, we have the review, and then we're going to upload to YouTube. So we have all this process right here in the middle that we're going to be working with in our proof of concept. And you know what? Let's just fire this off. I want to show you what we've been building. So I'm going to go ahead and plop that right there. So let me go ahead and just open up VS Code. Fantastic. So here we are. Let's go ahead and pull this forward and let me just walk through a couple things first. So we're going to be looking at a new suite of tools that we're going to be building on this channel called the Indie Dev Tools. It's an agentic engineering toolbox for developers. But right now we're focusing on this use case of generating YouTube metadata. So I'm going to take this long command. We'll break this down in just a second. Don't worry about it. And all I'm going to do here is kick this off. I'm going to open up the terminal, activate Poetry. We're operating in Python and Poetry. And then I'm just going to paste this command in. And let's look at the directory in which we're going to operate here. So you can see we have this mock YouTube content and we have this audio file. Let's go ahead, copy our script here and fire this off. So let's go ahead and let that run. And you can see here, as this runs, You can see it's running the create transcription step. As this runs, this directory is going to slowly fill up with metadata that we can use to upload our YouTube video, right? Right now it's doing all the hard work for us. We're going to push this back and just look at the architecture of what is actually going on here. There you can see the transcriptions kicking off now. That's awesome. So let's go ahead and look at exactly what's happening here under the hood, right? So here's the new architecture diagram for our proof of concept. So this is what's running right now in the background over there. You know, we have this rendered YouTube video, right? Just like before, we're starting right here, right? So let's zoom in on this. Whatever your rendered asset is, whatever the thing you're building your metadata around, you're going to have that as the first input to your tool, right? So remember, everything is a function. You want to treat every step in your pipeline of code and your pipeline of product. Doesn't matter if you're using no code or low code tools. It's best to think of everything as a function, right? Everything is a function. Let's focus on that principle. This principle is going to pay you dividends. So let's go ahead and just look at the application through the eyes of everything's a function. We create YouTube metadata, and then we branch off into 2 steps, right? So let's go ahead and just follow one of these steps. Let's generate the thumbnail, right? This is really important in the YouTube process. We're going to be generating the thumbnail here. We're going to have an LLM agent do this. And, you know, in the long term, it's not going to matter what agent you're using. You can be using OpenAI, DALL-E 3, you can be using some Midjourney API, you can be using whatever you need to, but the idea is all about the high level flow, right? Don't get too lost in the details of how it works, right? So we're gonna be generating thumbnails, LLM agent's gonna do that. We then have an additional step here where we need to resize our thumbnails into the perfect thumbnail ratio. And then finally, we have a thumbnail ready. Once that's finalized, that goes into the review step, where we collect the other bits of our assets, right? The title, the description, and then we can finally upload to YouTube. Let's follow this upper branch here, generate YouTube metadata, and that's treated as the input for our transcription step, right? We have the video, it's getting passed to this step, and then when we want to transcribe, of course, you need to transcribe on something, right? So we have the input of the video file coming in, and that's going to create a transcript, right? So now we have a fully rendered transcript after this step, and this is just a code step, right? We don't need an LLM to do this. LLM is not the right job for this. So we're going to focus on writing code to do this for us. So in the POC, we have code to do this for us, right? We're using Fast Whisper to generate our transcript. So after I have the transcript, we can now do other things. A great way to architect your LLM apps is to think, what do I need to run this LLM, right? What makes this prompt special? What makes this agent special? And for the title and the description, we're largely blocked on the script being ready. So we have the script here that's going to flow into the description, and the LLM agent's going to look at the script and then generate descriptions. Same idea here with the titles. We need the script. We can also add other inputs to this, right? This is just kind of a simplified version. You know, there are other inputs like, you know, SEO keyword. For the title, we have like a rough draft title, right? And that can all be used to help get you to your final step where you have all of your assets ready. And now you're ready for that final manual review, right? That human input where you're kind of the curator of the information and the content that's being generated by your multi-agent system, right? So after you lock that in, you can finally upload to YouTube, right? And the amazing part about this is we've now just engineered a multi-agent system that does all of this hard work for us, right? So all this is automated away. So we have this running right now in the background. Let's see if that's completed. Awesome. So let's look at the actual code implementation here. Our metadata generation has finished running from our proof of concept. Let's look at how we took these core ideas of everything is a function, and one more core principle we're going to talk about. And let's look at how we took those ideas and really turned it into something solid, something foundational. Close this, and let's just take a look at the output, right? So we started with just an audio file, right? And now you can see here, let's go ahead and just pull this in here. So now you can see here we have a couple of different assets generated, right? We have the audio file, we have the description, we have the script in a JSON form, we have the script in a text form, and of course we have our thumbnails, right? So this iteration created 3 thumbnails for us, that's awesome. And then we have a new set of titles generated for us as well, right? So aside from that initial metadata generation command, there was no work on our end. And that's what you want to be focused on with your LLM agents, right? What are the inputs to your system and what are the outputs, right? Start at that high level, and then just like we did over here, you know, pull in and break down the smaller individual steps. Inputs, outputs, inputs, outputs, inputs, outputs, right? It's the same thing. Everything is a function. Don't forget that, right? Keep that in the top of mind as we're walking through this. Everything is a function. So let's dive into some of the code, right? It all starts at the main file, of course. We're using poetry. We've got a couple other key libraries in here like Typer. So Typer allows us to build a clean CLI-like application flow. So we can do things like this. I can say poetry, run IDT, indie dev tools, and then we can say YouTube. And now we have a list of commands, right? So we can do help. And as you can see here, we have a whole list of individual commands in their own kind of sub command namespace where we can build smaller individual tools, right? And so you can see here we have these individual steps. We've broken things into kind of function-like elements, right? Where we have the configuration command, we have the description command, we have generate metadata, we have the script command, right? So the script is gonna transcribe the video, thumbnail is gonna be generating thumbnails for us, and of course the title generates some titles for us, right? So that's how we're dividing the application up. If we hop into the YouTube command, you can see here we have this really simple structure. We have commands, modules, and we have our main, and we have our models, right? So let's go ahead and hop into commands. And you can see here we have a slew of commands. We're gonna start at the top here with the YouTube command. And so just like you saw in the output here, right? We have these lists of commands. Those all correspond with these items here, right? So, you know, we have the thumbnail, we have the title, we have the script, we have the description generation. And of course we have that top function that we just ran earlier, generate meta, which combines all of our functions and runs them top to bottom in a single unified flow. And, you know, I want to call out something here. This really starts digging into the second principle, everything's a function, but also the fourth principle, build reusable building blocks. If you want to build great software, if you want to build reusable software that grows with you, you don't want to be rewriting the same code, the same applications, the same workflows every single time. Imagine if you started a new application and you built the same UI components every single time over and over, right? That's not a good use of your time. We're engineers, we're better than that. We know that we can take what we've done and reuse it in different ways. And the main way we do that is build small composable pieces of software, right? So let's look at an example, right? Let's look at the create title step. So let's go ahead and open up the create title. So I have that open here. So create titles, let's collapse this and just look at the top level, right? All this is in our modules directory, create title. That's all this does. It helps us generate additional titles, right? We talked about breaking our code into smaller pieces before. This is how we do that. We have small individual modules that do one thing and they do it well, right? It's a small building block. You can call create title anytime you want. Like, let's go ahead and do it right now because I have that divided up for that reason, right? So in the Typer commands directory, we can just run create titles, right? We don't need to run the entire flow. We can just come in here, right? Come into this single create title step, right? Let's pull this in. So the beauty about following this fourth principle and the second principle, everything's a function, and build reusable building blocks is this, right? If you have reusable building blocks, your code is modular, right? So you can come in here and only run this step if you want to, right? And this is great for so many reasons. A lot of senior engineers know exactly why. One of the big reasons this is so valuable is that you can test just this flow right here and nothing else. So when you're able to modularize your code like this, create reusable small building blocks, little functions that add up to bigger functions, when combined, your code is a lot more resilient, it's a lot more maintainable, and it is all those things because it's easier to just say, just work on the description, right? Just give me a description, right? And then just give me a title, and then, you know, just generate thumbnails, or just take this image and resize it, right? So we've engineered the entire metadata YouTube generator to match and utilize those principles, right? So I can actually just come in here and just run this individual command, right? So I have titles generated right here. What I'm gonna do is just underscore this, and we're gonna create a new batch, and we'll look at the actual content of what got generated here in just a moment. But let's go ahead and just run this. So I just want to create, you know, a new set of titles. So let's go to the titles command here, and let's look at what that input is for the create command. So it looks just like this. So we're going to run poetry, run IDT, we're running the YouTube suite of applications, and then we're going to go into titles, and then we're going to run create. So let's go ahead and pass in this. You can see that right there, this -r flag, and that's going to be our rough draft title, and we can run with just that. So, you know, let's say something like, you know, coding with the Apple Vision Pro, right? So let's just say that. So let's get some titles generated based on this rough draft. We can also pass in the script file. We can pass in count. Let's go ahead and generate, we'll pass in the C flag as well. Let's generate 4 titles, right? And we'll skip the SEO keywords and let's just let that rip, right? So you can see right away, we have our prompt, and, you know, I'm gonna share this code probably next week with the productionized version with you, so you can dig into more of the details. There's a lot going on here. I just want to show off some of the top level key principles to proof of concept ideas that we're talking about here. So that's finished. And so we can just play this to make sure that our script is matching up nicely. I can just go ahead and hit play. So you can see here, it's matched up pretty nicely. Technology is breaking the limits on what you can build. You can now create software that not only makes decisions for you. Nice, right? So that's working pretty well. We can get that out the way. Let's look at the script JSON. So there's a script.txt and a script JSON. Sometimes you want the individual segments of your script, right? So here's the entire script there, and then we have segments, right? So this is just gonna be the chunks, right? So LLM technology is breaking. Not only can it make decisions for you, so sometimes that's useful to have. You wanna just pass in some key information to your LLM, some different timestamps on different periods. And then we have some descriptions. So I formatted this in a hook, first paragraph, second paragraph, and then an explanation of why the LLM chose the first and second paragraph, where it got the ideas from. So this is cool. This is ready. It is, automating a lot of the work for us. In that final review step, you're always going to want to take all the information you have and do a final review before you do anything with it, right? And this actually helps you iterate on the entire process, right? Because you can say, okay, this part was good, the title was good, description was mid, and maybe the thumbnails aren't as great as I want them to be. That can all happen in your review process, and then you kind of come back to the drawing board and you focus on what needs to be improved, right? That is what our multi-agent YouTube metadata generator looks like right now. Using these key principles that we talked about before, right? These principles are super helpful, right? Using the right tool for the job. Do you need an agent here? In our transcription step, right? There's just no reason to use an agent. So if we pull that open here, if we look in our modules here, we have that create transcription step. And this is using faster whisper to, run the transcriptions. We can, create a limit. Sometimes you don't need to run through the entire transcript. So that's all here for us to use. You can see it's in a nice, simple function. It has an input, has an output. It creates a transcription file that is then used for the other steps in the process, right? So that's that. So you want to be using the right tool for the job. Sometimes it's code, sometimes it's agents, sometimes it's manual input, right? Like for instance, of course, you need to render a full video before you can pass it in to your process, right? And then we have that key idea, everything is a function. By treating all of our flow as inputs and outputs to one another, we can do things like this, right? We can have one super top level flow. Let me just go ahead and collapse this a little bit, where we have, our create transcription step, we have our create title, we have our description, and we have our thumbnails, right? And at the top level, we just arbitrarily want all these things to run top to bottom, right? We can take these individual functions with inputs and outputs and tap into the fourth principle, right? Build reusable building blocks. We can now run this create title step on its own, and really we can reuse that create title for any other application we want to build in this tool suite, right? And really any other application. So you want to be building reusable building blocks as you're building out your multi-agent applications, because that tool that you're giving your agent, that prompt, you're probably going to want something like that again in a different version, or you might want the exact same things. So that's how we can, use everything as a function. Think about everything as a function. And of course, you just want to, throughout your process of your proof of concept, keep asking great questions. Great questions are going to get you to your result. Even if you don't have a good idea, just throw something at it, right? Throw something at whatever you're building and just use that as a starting point, right? And then lastly, just like we talked about, use reusable building blocks. Everything is a function, so make sure that your functions are isolated, they're reusable, and it allows you to, take individual chunks like this, isolate them, test them, modularize them. This gives you a, huge advantage as an engineer, having solutions to problems that I can guarantee you're going to see multiple times over in different variants. That's super important. So, this is the proof of concept. We can now run a single script. And like I said, I'm going to share the code probably next week with you guys. I want you to have that full view of how you can engineer multi-agent applications in a clean way. But, just looking at the README here, there's going to be a lot of cool functionality. Let's look at the cleaner version. Let's go ahead and, there we go. So, there's going to be a lot of cool capabilities here, all the way from generating metadata from top to bottom using, the collection of methods and functions to the individual steps. We can come in here and just, all I want right now is a description, and, all I want is a thumbnail. And, it's a great way to just build software in general, but specifically it's a great way to, manage and control your multi-agent applications. So you can take your principles, turn them into plans, create your proof of concept, and then prove through your proof of concept that, it is worth building at all, right? So you can hit that proof of value, which gets you one step closer to creating the future you want to create, right? I've had so much fun, building this video, using this new technology. Let me know if you guys like this video format. It's definitely different. It's definitely new. And, I had a lot of fun doing it, but let me know if you like this video format. I know that some of the specs are a little rough, but I think that what it offers is, definitely worth it in exchange. So what's next for a YouTube automation tool? We're going to be hitting P5. What is P5? It's the final version of the application, the first kind of, push into the future of what you want to see, what you want to build. We're going to be productionizing the application, and I'll be sharing this code base with you. If you're interested in this, if you enjoyed this video format, definitely drop the like, drop the sub, leave a comment. Let me know what you liked. Let me know what I can improve with this video format. There's a decent amount going on here, but I love being able to, feel the work and walk through it with you in a much more tangible way, right? We can really dig in and talk design. We can talk software. We can talk principles. So I also want to mention the AI coding assistant tutorials are in the works right now. I'm really excited to share that with you guys. It's going to be a set of tutorials into some more premium paid courses for those that want all the gains that you can get from AI coding assistants. There's a lot of interesting details to work out. It's going to be one of the first AI coding assistant tutorials and AI coding assistant courses. As you know, on this channel, we're kind of near the edge of a lot of what's being built, what's happening right now. So there are a lot of unknowns to confront there, but I just wanted to call that out. If you're interested in that, hit the like, hit the sub. And yeah, I just want to say, thanks so much. In the final video, we're going to have a full productionized version. I'm going to share the code with you guys, and we're going to bring our YouTube metadata automation multi-agent tool all the way. There are a lot of things that I want to add to the final version. Right now, there's no iteration step. When you're creating thumbnails, you want to be able to iterate on them. And it's cool that we can generate, 5 of them right now, right? Like we can just pass in the count variable here, but it would be cool if we could iterate on these and improve them over, multiple iterations. So some tooling for that. I also want this process to be a lot smoother, right? So I'm asking myself the question, how can I make this the most seamless experience possible, right? Right now, everything's kicked off by this top level generate metadata step, which is, really cool. This is a proof of concept. So you want and need to be doing some more hacky, non-UX, UI focused things. But, I want to take this step. I kind of want to build some like fully, automated CLI that just walks me through the information that, the multi-agent system needs to build the best metadata, right? And so maybe it just prompts me, what's the rough draft title? What are some keywords, right? It just prompts all this. I would rather have that than, walk through this kind of laborious step of setting up this command every single time. You want to think of yourself as a user of your own applications. You want it to be seamless. You want clean experiences. You want simple experiences so that you can focus more on producing value, right? And that's one of the big ideas I want you to take away from this video. We use LLMs and we use code. We build software to solve problems and to do things that, of course, we can do it. We can do it ourselves, but we should be building tools to solve these problems for us, right? We want to be getting rid of all this manual crap here and building out software, building out tooling to do it for us, right? Building out multi-agent systems that can handle this all for us. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time. And that's going to be it for this one, guys. Stay focused, keep building, and I'll see you in the next one with a finalized version.